Welcome to the Blue Shack. My name's Joe, and today I'm going to be working on another project. Let's get started. Today I'm going to try to finish up this ring mandrel I've been working on. This is the third step. There's actually kind of two more steps. What I'm going to do today is start drilling the hole for the bolt. All right, today's a little bit sunnier outside here in southwestern Oregon, so I'm not wearing a jacket. It's kind of nice. Get my safety glasses on. Okay, so I'm going to start with countersinking the head of the bolt by where the taper stops there. I think 1/8, yeah, 1/8 is going to do that. Maybe ever so slightly deeper than 1/8. And I measure the diameter of this the head of this bolt, and it is 13/32. Should give me plenty of room for it to spin freely. 13/32. And that's what this one is, 13/32. Nice and centered. Here we go. I'm going to give that just a light touch with the reamer. The head of this should fit in there. Yep. And there's plenty of room for it to turn. Next, I'm going to grab a center drill and make sure it's almost 13/32, but not bigger. So this size is 25/64, so a 32nd smaller than a drill, so that'll be perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to taper that, the inside of that where it stops, all the way up to use the full taper on my center drill. It's 60 degrees, so that'll match the 60 degrees I cut on the bolt. And once this plunges in there, it's hard to see, so I keep backing out frequently to pay attention. Theoretically, once I get this flush with that, I should give it another 1/8 of an inch, right? Yeah, find out. Okay, I'm right even with the edge of the taper. So what I'm going to do is mark on here, probably like go to the 1 inch mark. And that's right even with that. Theoretically, I should need to go another 30 seconds on an inch. I'm going to check that. Yes, I need to go another 30 seconds. All right, nice 60-degree taper in there. Okay, the next step is to remove material from inside here down to the back edge of this chamfered edge here, because that's where I'm going to split it to. Its hinge point's going to be there, and I want it to be a little bit weaker than where the threads start. These bolts are 30 millimeters long, and so that takes the threads, if it's sitting flush, if the head's flush with the face, that's going to take the threads clear down to here. And so what I do is I remove 20 millimeters worth of material, and that will allow the other 10 millimeters of the threads to catch, and that's plenty enough. Take this measurement on my quill, starting at the 1/2 inch mark, and that is 13/16. Okay, so I'm going to set the drill, I'll run it back to a 1/2 inch. The reason I'm setting it as a 1/2 inch is because with that taper in there, I can't take the quill all the way back to 0. It's a long taper, and it'll pull the Morse tape, the chuck out. It'll push the chuck out if I go any further much further than that. Okay. 13/16. Okay, we're at depth there. Next step is to drill the hole for the threaded portion, where we're going to tap it. And this being an M6 by 1.0, the closest standard drill bit, or number 9 drill. Okay, now for this one, I want to do the entire 30 millimeters. Plus, I want to be able to run it down a good 5 millimeters beyond. It will never get that deep. But also just to be able to thread, if you don't have a bottoming tap, I would go beyond it. Just make sure you don't go down into the post on the Morse taper that it's screwed into. So let's call it 35 millimeters. Oh, I forgot to, the bolt, wasn't thinking right. The threaded portion is 30 millimeters. So the entire thing head and all is 36 millimeters. So I want to go another 5 beyond that. So take it down to 41 millimeters. I'm going to take it clear down to 45 millimeters. Convert that to inches is 1 3/4 inch. So we've got a bit of drilling to do. 1 3/4 inch. Okay. And we're going to tap it. I'm going to disengage the gearing on this so it spins freely. And find my M6 tap, tapered, to start it with. Okay, again, I'm going to leave the tailstock loose. I'm going to push that on and give it force, push it forward with my right hand as I turn the lathe with my left, and make sure it is driving in as I go, not just pulling out threads. And I can see it feeding. Okay. Once it gets where I know it's started good, loosen that chuck, slide the tailstock back out of the way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and re-engage that so I have pressure to work against. Looks like it's just about at the bottom there. Okay, here we go. Pull that up nice and careful so I don't damage my threads. I'm going to remove this and go to the last step. And when I remove this, I just put some pliers there and give it a pretty good little snap. And that, I'll be able to remove it from the Morse taper. Okay, the next step, the last step, is to split it. Put these splits in it so it can flare out. And to do that, I have a metal cutting blade on my bandsaw, and that works pretty well. I had to make a 3D print a sled to clamp this in place so I can get it nice and precise cuts. But there are other ways to do it. All right, so I'm going to move the camera on over to the bandsaw and get this finished up. Okay, I'm over at my bandsaw. It's actually a wood cutting bandsaw, but I put a metal blade on it and it works pretty well for that. Now this is a sled that I designed to fit specifically on my bandsaw for splitting splitting mandrels. So I'm going to clamp that in there. All right, so I'm going to clamp this nice and tight once I get that in there. Make sure it's centered. I made my design so that I can move this left or right as needed. I'm going to come around the other side and visually check to see how centered it looks. If I had better eyesight, it'd be easier. Okay, here we go. Double, triple check everything before I turn the bandsaw on. All right. Okay, now what I do is loosen this clamp and rotate it 90 degrees. There we go. All right, I'm gonna clamp this back down. And again, make sure it's all centered. Now, I think we can call this thing finished. I'm going to loosen this back up. All right, now that we've got that split, it's pretty much finished. Now to test it. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back on the Morse taper there. Okay, find that bolt. Okay, now that bolt is just going to live in there. Okay, it's still loose. Now, I just happen to have a size 5.5 ring that I was unable to finish before. It's all finished except for this back edge. You can see it's pretty jagged and everything. So that should fit on there. And with a little bit of tightening, should stay on and be pretty centered. Sometimes I have to hold the back of the mandrel with a pair of pliers to get it good and tight. Okay, let's see how true that runs. Spot on. So, to prove that, I should put a gauge on there. So it's got a play of about 1/1000th of an inch. Not too shabby. Pretty darn accurate. that's how I make a ring mandrel. Theoretically, that will run true every time I thread this onto that Morse taper and slide it in my lathe. It should be true every single time, as long as I'm using the same Morse taper every time. The next thing I'm going to do is go to lunch. And after that, I may come back down to the shop and finish this ring off. And I might film that for anybody who's interested in it. For now, so long, have a nice day.